Coming up next, we have the Cedric Thomas program here on the Braves Sports Network. We'll recap the Lincoln game. Of course, we'll kind of reflect on some of the events that took place after the ball game, kind of put that into its proper perspective, and we'll look at the Lincoln game, and we'll look ahead to another homecoming. We just had a very good homecoming, and we had the Florida A&M in their homecoming coming up at 3 o'clock on Central Time from Bragg Stadium. We'll take a break here in 30 seconds. The Cedric Thomas Show will get underway. We'll be right back.
The 2025 SWAC football season is almost here, and SWAC TV is set to bring you some of the most anticipated games of the season. Big classics, historic rivalries, and some of the best bands in the land will headline the inaugural slate of 45 football games this fall. Free, live, and on demand on the new and exclusive streaming platform of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. The time is now. SWAC TV is here, building champions for life.
And well-being here at Alcorn State University.
Live from the beautiful campus of Alcorn State University, coming up on the Braves Sports Network, we have the Cedric Thomas program. Glad you can join us. You can participate in the program. Call 601-877-6595. You can text a question, 601-301-2611 on X, Tall Man Radio. We'll recap, of course, the Lincoln ball game in which the Braves won it 42-0. Of course, the talk around here over the last 48 hours is the unfortunate, sad, and tragic events that happened after the ball game. We'll get Cedric Thomas's thoughts on that. He usually is pretty perspective when it comes to these types of things, loss of life and just difficult situations. And there have been thoughts and prayers to Alcorn State University from families, from friends, from other universities as well. So we'll talk all about that with head football coach Cedric Thomas. We'll look ahead to Florida A&M coming up. So we'll take a 1-minute break, and we'll be right back with the Cedric Thomas program here on the Braves Sports Network.
Some names immediately evoke an uncommon sense of family, an unmistakable sense of character, an undeniable sense of legacy. Always. Where trailblazers and innovators chart new paths of possibility. Where academic rigor empowers the strength of character to lead with knowledge and integrity. It's a name that harkens back to over 150 years of truly making a difference in our world. Always Alcorn.
Can I get the now bar, please?
$1.
Have a good one.
Got it.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Let me get a now bar.
Sure. $1.
Appreciate you.
Got it.
5, code 6, 105.
My grandma?
Your grandma's fierce.
The new iPhone 15 Pro is now at C Spire. Made with titanium and featuring the most advanced iPhone camera system yet. Get it on us with trade-in. C Spire. Customer inspired. Requires purchase of 36-month device payment plan and eligible wireless service plan. See cspire.com for details.
And welcome back to the Cedric Thomas program here on the Braves Sports Network, 91.7 WPRL and WPRL.org, WMIS, WTYJ, 1240 AM, 97.7 FM, Fayette Natchez, NatchezRadio.com, and 90.1 WMPR in Jackson. Glad you can join us here a couple of days after homecoming, a very successful homecoming, and then after the game, we all know what happened later on Saturday. So we'll talk all about that with Braves head football coach Cedric Thomas. Coach, how you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm blessed, Mr. Charles.
Yeah, boy, I tell you what, homecoming was homecoming. You know, great day, festive, a lot of activities. Coach, as you know, won the football game. And then after the football game, we all know what happened. There was a shooting on this campus. One person lost their life. 3 were injured. And it was an unfortunate situation that took place. So, Coach Thomas, you, when it comes to these type of events, and there have been events that have happened with football players and within your team, and you got the win on Saturday. People were happy about that. And then after the game, we all know what happened. I was driving home, and I saw a bunch of medical vehicles coming the other way as far as, highway patrol. They were speeding the other way, and I'm like, what's going on? And then I get home, and then my phone blows up. So take us through, for you. You win the football game, and then we all know what happened. how did you get involved with it? Did your phone blow up like a lot of people check in on folks, shelter in place? Just take us through the timeline that you went through.
Yeah, my biggest thing, to the guys all week was just making sure that they feet hit the floor and everybody get in the team meeting room on Sunday. And so after the game, that was my biggest, discussion to the guys was, hey, just be careful, understand, the decision making that you got to do and got to have at the end of this. But the objective is, my direct order to them was just make sure you put yourself in a position where I can see all your faces at 5 o'clock in the team meeting room. So when I get it, of course it's, hey, let's get the guys. Coaches did an amazing job to get a head count or physically making sure that we could reach out and touch every single person that's in this program. And so once we kind of did that, we knew that, we kind of had the guys that we was dealing with. When you get calls from parents, and a lot of these guys, we tell them all the time, I got to pick them phones up, mom and dad's calling, but sometimes they getting bombarded and don't want to deal with them. So you're getting parents calling, making sure, and I had to show them, through thumbs up or just via discussion that, we knew that they was in, out of harm's way. And so I thought, campus and administration did a good job, shutting the campus down. But, my overall focus was to make sure that everybody I was dealing with inside the program was okay.
So everybody was accounted for.
Yeah, and it happened pretty fast. We got this Teamworks. Administration did a really good job of giving us this app to where, we can make sure everybody can see it, just at one press of a button. And so once we kind of got all the feedback, you kind of got a calm knowing that, everybody that's kind of in our utopia, was okay. And so kind of just put a little prayer out for them, and I hit AD up, just let him know, hey, anything that's needed from us, from an admin standpoint on the coaching side, I had everybody accounted for along with the coaching staff. We was good from a football standpoint.
Yeah, everybody was kind of putting out on social media they're safe, they're okay, but, just what's going through your mind, just again, just dealing with this and just the society that we're in. It's just crazy times right now.
Yeah, just heartfelt. But you see it, all the way across the nation, and my sentiment was as strong, all week because of, what happened at other institutions. And it's just kind of like, almost like, you hate to say it, but almost like a copycat ravine, in some certain sectors. And so my thing to them is just make sure you make great decisions and knowing that it's happening. And so just be mindful of it, or your surroundings, or people that don't look like they, are doing things, in a positive light. And so really just unforced situation. Really disappointed, that the festivities and just the pageantry itself, had to come to an end the way it did. And prayers to the family and everybody that's associated, with the young lady and everybody that was hurt, harmed, or injured, in that situation.
As a coach, as a father, as a mentor, did it rattle you? Did it shake you to the core because you're just coming off a big football game win, and you're just trying to, like you said, get the win and let's enjoy homecoming. And not too long after that happens. Did just emotions going through your mind? Yeah,
I got a 13-year-old, that was somewhere around campus, and so it hits a whole lot different for me, and she wants to attend this institution, so I put myself in position of all the other parents that's calling. So when I call my wife to make sure that, they okay along with, everybody in the program, then, I got to replay this situation where, with my daughter being at college, what them phone calls look like and the importance of just answering and make sure your phone stay on, charged up so I can be able to get in contact with you. So, it was real surreal, for me. We've been around here a long time, and just so tranquility type atmosphere, so peaceful, you wouldn't think that, it'll be knocking at our door as close as it got.
And the thing about it, when you talk about Alcorn home football games, especially homecoming and the great crowds that we've had, when people outside of the Alcorn space, when they come on campus, they love the atmosphere. They love it being a safe space. And then this happens, and it's just tough.
Yep, it's just a sign of time, man. You can't let one apple spoil a whole bunch. It's a great place. Even talking to my daughter after, just about being safe and understanding what's going on. She still love the place. She's still going to be a Golden Girl. She's still going to attend Alcorn. I don't think this one situation will affect, us going forward. We got a great administration that's going to do the necessary things to keep all kids, safe. And so it's just one of those times, unfortunate situation, but, this great institution, just like us with the record, this institution to bounce back.
Well, there's a statement earlier today that the president, Dr. Tracy M. Cook, released. It's out there on social media, Cedric, if you can pull that up for us. It is with immense sorrow that I am sharing this message with the Alcorn State University family regarding the senseless acts of violence that happened on Saturday after our homecoming game. What was meant to be a joyous occasion quickly turned tragic when the life of Miss Brekaya Fisher was taken and others injured and traumatized by gun violence on our campus. I want to extend my heartfelt condolences and prayers to the family of Miss Fisher, and my thoughts and prayers are with those individuals who were injured and traumatized by this incident. This weekend's violence went beyond our campus, across Mississippi and beyond. At high school games, Jackson State, Louisiana State as well, gun violence took place surrounding what should have been safe gatherings. This is unacceptable, and it breaks my heart. In moments like these, words often fall short. What I can say, and this is from our president, Dr. Tracy M. Cook, is he's deeply grateful, and the courage and professionalism from our campus police, first responders, local and state law enforcement officers who responded immediately and worked swiftly to secure the area. Their quick actions prevented further harm and brought calm to a very difficult situation. And now, of course, campus operations resumed with heightened security measures in place. And it's gotten to the point now, Coach Thomas, you talk about high schools. Even the director of the Mississippi High School Association said there shouldn't be any more tailgating on high school property. Of course, with potential alcohol and other stuff that's involved, it's getting to that point now because you had high school games. Cedric Bush, who does the games, home games with me from Leland, the events up there in Leland and other places. So this is definitely having an unfortunate trickle down effect, colleges as well as high schools.
Yeah, and I guess professionals, lawmakers, and all the legislative, staff and support. I think they'll come put something in place to kind of just keep everybody safe from that standpoint. We're praying, the senseless acts will stop, but they get paid the big bucks to set whatever legislation tactics they got to do to be able to get this thing curtailed to where it's still stop.
Well, we're going to take a break right here. I wanted to get Cedric Thomas's thoughts on that because that's still a discussion, and appreciate all the comments and the thoughts and prayers, even from other schools. Cedric Thomas, they've been chiming in on social media, so we appreciate that. We'll take a break here. When we come back, we'll look at the football game, the Lincoln Oaklanders and the Braves. We'll get to that after this 60-second timeout here on the Braves Sports Network.
Agriculture isn't just what we do, it's who we've always been. At Alcorn State University's College of Agriculture and Applied Sciences, we've always understood that feeding the world takes more than knowledge. It takes heart. Our rigorous programs blend time-honored wisdom with cutting-edge science. Here, you'll join generations of innovators who've always pushed boundaries while keeping their roots firmly planted in tradition. Always growing, always innovating, always Alcorn.
Don't worry, 74 people were picked before me in the NFL draft.
To fight childhood obesity, United Way and the NFL are helping kids play at least 60 minutes a day.
Okay, time for the team obstacle course. Yay!
What this place needs is more healthy kids. To get involved or donate, go to unitedway.org/play60.
Now I get it.
All right, we welcome you back to the Cedric Thomas program here on the Braves Sports Network. Glad you could join us here on this Monday night as we take a look at the Oaklanders of Lincoln from Oakland, California. So, Coach, all the talk all week long about whether this game would be played or not, even Friday afternoon. I get a call. Is the game being played Friday afternoon about 5 o'clock? Yeah, the game's going to get played. So, obviously, did you have to kind of deal with that? Were you taking calls? Coach, is the game going to get played or not? Did you get a lot of calls last week about it?
Not early, but once you did the show, all the people that's kind of close to me, they kind of took it for face value and understood that, hey, we said it was going to be on, it was going to be on. So they just kind of trusted it. But I didn't get any, calls late in the week, and talked to AD, had some phone conversation with the athletic director and their head coach, and so they guaranteed us, and so they kind of just sent the itinerary, and we knew they was going to show up.
And were able to count how many players did they have, or did it really matter? It was 11 on 11.
Yeah, it didn't matter. I told you I was going to get my daughter dance team out there. Somebody was going to play.
All right, so let's take a look at it, Coach. just overall, I mean, that team played hard for the numbers that they brought. They made it tough on us. I mean, we made plays and we got some things done, but for the numbers that they brought, they gave it everything they had.
You know, and I went over and got them guys, the coaches, some of the assistants, even the head coach, information. Just want to stay in contact, with those guys. You never know how this profession is, but for those guys to be able to come and, just play, conceptually, they had some stuff. It wasn't just no backyard football, just throwing it around ragtail. You could actually see conceptually those guys was doing some concepts and some things that was kind of intriguing. But the way those guys played, that's the testament of, the leadership that he has, with what he got going on, and got a chance to talk to him for a second. And so was really excited. I knew, from a skill guy standpoint, they had some really good skill guys. I think the trenches was kind of the telltale, but they had some guys that could throw and catch, which kind of gave us some struggles, at times in the game.
The UAPB tape kind of said a lot because they played UAPB a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and that was 30-8, and they, had a couple interceptions. And
I think it was 13-8 at halftime.
Yeah, that group, I'm telling you, man, that group wasn't bad, and we knew it, and so it wasn't just showing up. We had opportunity to play and get better, and so that's what we wanted to do.
Well, let's take a look at the action. We scored first, Coach. Jacorian Sewell, 99-yard run to get us going early as we led 7-0. Talk about that.
Yeah, just the Banner crowd. Here on out. Is trying to make sure he get them touches he has to get him going, and it was good to see that early.
So you talk about carries with Jacorian Sewell, and he had 9 carries a previous attempt, almost twice as many this previous game. What's a good number for him, or is there a solid number for him? 20, 25 carries, just feeding him?
Yeah, anywhere between that, from an analytics standpoint, the success rate, goes up a whole lot higher, right around that 20 to 23, 25 range. And so, and that don't necessarily mean carries, but you can add the touches in, also in the target. So you see him in the empty picture where we throw a couple of them to him, so we'll be able to do that. So we just can't, guys won't be able to box him in, but we definitely going to give him a high dosage down the stretch.
So we led 7-0 early, Coach, and then on the second drive we got 10.5 left in the first quarter. Reggie Davis for 92 yards. So a couple of long drives, 99 and 92 yards.
Yeah, them guys run hard. Those guys are really dangerous tandem back there. The O-line did a good job of blocking and creating a new line of scrimmage for them. And so it was just good to see the start early because, the mindset was really to try to get some other guys, get some of the younger guys in so they could play also.
We led 14-0, Coach, at that point, and Lincoln took over with 10 minutes left in the first quarter. So there's a situation, Coach, we're talking about sacks, and Dylan Crowell got a sack on that second drive. So Dylan Crowell, as we know, and the story behind Dylan Crowell this time last year was playing baseball. And so and we've called his name a time or two so far this season. Just talk about his transformation from the baseball field to the football field and the job he's done so far defensively.
Yeah, awesome. I think he can be an all-conference football player. I mean, really, really good football player. This is actually his first 12 months in his life that he's actually just did football by itself. Because in high school we played baseball, so he would do baseball in the spring. Never got a chance to lift. Never got a chance to really run and do all the football things. This was his first year, and man, he's excelling. He's that third, fourth linebacker for us right now. He owns the kicking game, and he's one of our core guys. So I'm so excited about his development and his family. Talking to them, that was a big decision, for them, to help him navigate through that decision to not only, not play baseball anymore, but be a full-time football player.
What did you see in him, or did he come to you wanting to play football? Did you just see something in him that the defensive coaches see something in him?
He was one of the high school coaches, Coach Vance. He was at Hattiesburg, and told us about him. And I've been dealing with, Coach Vance ever since he was at Charleston and got a great relationship, so I didn't need to see the tape. When he told me it was a diamond in the rough, the only thing that he was actually in the rough, meaning on the baseball diamond. And so once I got a chance to see the tape, I said, hey, look, you can play baseball, but, just come on, try out. And he did it, and he made it, and so, I just told him selfishly, hey, look, you got opportunity. I can financially foot the bill, and put you on scholarship, but you can't straddle the fence anymore. You got to be a full-time football player or a full-time baseball player, and he decided, with his family, to do it, and man, he's reaping the benefits, boy. We're so excited about him. When these guys leave, man, it's gonna be a show.
So we got the sack there, and we fast forward to 6:40 left in the first quarter. We got the football at our 41-yard line. We're faced with a 4th down and 4, and then we're called for a face mask. Coach, the penalties, again, I know they're just nagging, and a face mask kind of pushed us back, and we had to punt right there.
Yeah, that's bad decision making. We got to move our feet, get closer to the blocker, as we make that transition. But we stick our arm out, and while we're blocking, and then just grab the face mask. And so we just got to keep our hands lower. Those guys are tall and dangly and got a lot of length. They just got to keep the hands inside.
I've heard you talk about hand placement throughout this entire season when it comes to these holding penalties and these penalties in the trenches. What's the 1 or 2 or 3 things that you have to be just for fans to understand the whole? I think we had one kid had 3 penalties in a row, and we'll talk about that. But just the hand placement up front, and just it's such a fast sport, intense, and you don't want to hold, but just the intensity and the speed of the game. What are some of the things you have to just continue to preach home with that?
The biggest thing is just how the refs gonna call it. Just being consistent. From that standpoint. Ultimately you got to move your feet. You got to use your hands, keep your hands inside, keep your thumbs up, and drive your feet on contact. But a lot of times, you got slants, you got stunts, you got all this movement. And so the objective is to make sure that the ball carrier, whoever that may be, running back or quarterback, you keep them safe. So a lot of times it's just kind of, hey, if I don't want to let them go, and get what we call getting the running back or the linebacker, the quarterback smoked. And so, but we got to just be sound with our technique. Coach goes over it, every single day while we out there. But it's different when you get guys moving at 9, 10, 12 miles per hour with some of the movement patterns. So it's just like anything else. We got to just constantly work it. But when you get taller linemen and those guys got wingspans that's a little bit, a little bit longer than the average, 6'1", 6'2", to kind of what we used to. Those guys kind of get long and stretch out, and just got to keep their base under them, and got to move their feet.
How would you assess, despite the small numbers, how would you assess the Oaklanders' trench play, offensive and defensive lines?
It wasn't very good. I ain't gonna lie to you. It wasn't. That's what it was kind of, the weak is at. They skill guys was really good, but they just gave you so many different looks of just inconsistent and just non-football stuff that really you don't get much film on them, and they take a linebacker and run him through the A-gap, or the nose guard, don't get up the field, so you can't run screens. And, man, it was just tough trying to game plan them, so we just zoned everything and just try to put a hat on the hat, stay on track, and just try to hand it off.
You talked about it last week, the lack of data. You had some UAPB, and, you probably could get a few more nuggets here, there. Did the lack, and I know you don't like to make excuses, but the lack of data, did that kind of have an impact? The fact that if you had more, the usual, like you're going to get a bunch of data this week and going forward, you got all SWAC games the rest of the way, but did that kind of help make things a little bit advantageous for them, the lack of data for what we're trying to get?
Yeah, it did. When you talk about anybody that understand O-line play, when you talk about deucing and acing and trading up to different guys, well, all that's out the window when you got a zero nose, you got a flying 3 technique that's coming, and you got a linebacker with number 5 that's just running the other A-gap. It's just hard to, deuce up to the mic, and you don't know who the mic is, because on the on the too deep, it says he's a safety. And I thought Coach Watson them did a really good job, after that second, third drive, just settling down. And those guys did some really good, concepts. We got 1 or 2 from them, that A-gap pressure that they had that they, gave us some problems with. So those guys did a really good job, man. Kudos to them just from an organization standpoint with the numbers of them guys, doing a really good job from a defensive standpoint.
I guess in thinking about this, do numbers really matter? I mean, didn't bring 40 players. Do numbers really matter? You got 11 on 11. 11 plus 11 is 22. Do numbers really matter?
Yeah, it can. It can. When you talk about longevity, when you get 1 AA versus 1 AA, and you look at the same experience, us going to Mississippi State. Once they kind of got their 3s and 2s in, you can kind of see us kind of settle down a little bit on some drives. But when you talk about just for the duration of 8, 9, 14, 22 minutes, that's when things start to bleed out on you. That's when them guys get a lot tired. And then we got some guys that got to play special team in both ways. They don't really have many that's doing that, so they're a little fresher. But the numbers, it does. But it's a lot of complementary football that goes along with it.
It was 14-0 at the end of the first quarter. So what were your thoughts at the end of the first 15 minutes?
Let's keep scoring so these young guys can play. That was my biggest thing. My thing to them at halftime was you owe it to these young guys. We got a lot of parents that come and support, these student athletes, and you got some moms and dads that's vested, and some of them will never get a chance to see their, child actually play, down in there, depending on, the situation and circumstance. So here's an opportunity. I felt like not only myself, but the players who was playing, that they got a lead well enough that some of these parents could get a chance to see their sons run up and down that field.
Well, it's 14-0 at the end of the first quarter. Then in the second quarter, we had the football, got it at Lincoln's 19-yard line. We got to the 13, and then a fumble. And so just talk about that play. Tolbert up the middle for 9 yards, and it was recovered by Lincoln at the 13-yard line.
Yeah, it's kind of what I was talking to you and Mr. Said after the game. That series, that drive just wasn't to my liking. And so we took them out. The name of the game is football, and the most prized possession, is the football. So we got to maintain the possession. And so if he can't consistently keep the football, then, somebody else deserves to play. And so just kind of took him out, let Andre, get some snaps in. But was just disappointed, that we let the football on the ground and, didn't get points out of that series.
Lincoln was able to move the football at times, Coach. They got it at their own 22, and out that turnover, they got to our 28-yard line, and we created a turnover pass intercepted by Snow, but they were able to move the football, some dinks and dunks. Their quarterback had some receivers open out in the flat, just couldn't hit them. But you can see that they had some concepts there. They were able to push the ball down the field.
Yeah, I told you, they would love to play 7-on-7 against us. I'm telling you, they had some skilled guys that can do it. Had some nice little route concepts and a quarterback that can kind of spin it a little bit. We didn't play our best on the edge. Some corners gave up some things, some quick game things, and they did a really good job of just taking advantage of it.
Well, on that intercept, we were called for a hold, Coach, so that kept the drive alive.
Yeah, and he did. They gave him a post corner route. And on the insert, from the post, he grabbed him when he tried to, transition out to the corner route. Just unfortunate situation, but he did it. And so, Pat got to be smart, keep his hands inside, and just ride the rail and not let that wide out be able to get outside.
They were faced with a 4th down and 12, Coach, and a pass incomplete. So we took over the football from that point with 7 minutes left in the second quarter, and Andre Washington got the start on this particular drive. Now, you've talked about this. There will be plays and there will be sequences in which he will start drives, and that's by design. Was this particular drive, 6:59 left in the second quarter, was this by design? Or you kind of referenced it, the fact that we just came off a turnover, was that a result of that, or was this by design that he was coming in at this point in time?
No, it was just a result of Jalen, being careless with the football. So we just pushed him up, right then. And so, just had to settle him down and get him to understand, you won't be rewarded with playing time if you're going to put the ball, in harm's way that type of way.
So he took over with 6:59 left in the second quarter. Just talk about the job that he did, and I know in the post game you were saying some things that he's got to improve upon, going forward when he's in there.
That's Andre?
Yes.
Yeah. He got a amazing skill set. He just got to trust it. For some reason when he get in the pass game, he kind of just bogs down and let things go too fast for him. He's been on a lot of different levels. He just got to settle down, let the game come to him. We want him to be able to have that same veracity in which he run the football with the pass game.
One of the questions that was asked to me earlier today was, will we see more of him? I mean, I guess what was being referenced or inferred to is that maybe he gets more action because maybe he feels like Washington would be the better option at quarterback.
He could if he complete, the football at a decent rate. That's the deal. Right now he don't throw it well enough to play more than what he's playing. And so we would love for, Dre, we one of his biggest fans. I know I am, because you see how he run the football when things break down. However, he still just got to distribute the ball in the pass game, a whole lot more to give him a chance not only to start, but just, to play a whole lot more.
Yeah, he's hard to bring down, and from what I can see, we saw it against Mississippi State. He's got a pretty live arm.
Yeah, he got all the tools, but it's more to just throwing it fast, throwing it hard when it's middle field open, middle field closed, and you can't just tell him to throw it to him with all these coverages and changes and all that. So he just got to do a better job of processing and just settle down when he get his chance. But we definitely like where he is, and he'll get a couple series a game, and if he keep it rolling, then he'll stay out there.
So Washington in, and then with 3:57 left, Coach, we got another touchdown on the 2nd and 3. Tolbert's pass to Marion Blakes for the touchdown.
It was good to see Marion, score the football. He's kind of our Swiss Army knife. You see him, catching punt returns. You see him blocking. You see him tackling people. He's that guy that does everything. And so just excited to see him, get in the end zone.
So it was 21-0 at that point, Coach. thoughts at the end of the first half?
Just had some miscues. One, just wanted to clean up some of the explosive that they had on offense, and the big pass interference penalty could have got us a turnover. So just wanted to clean a second quarter.
What was your grade at the end of the 30 minutes as a teacher? What would you grade it?
Probably about a D+. Yeah, very disappointed. Operational stuff. We can't let the ball on the ground, regardless of who we playing. We can't fumble the football. I thought that right there, if I'm grading on the curve, it went from a C-, to a D+, by putting that ball on the ground. And then the two penalties that we had, we get the interception, but then we got to give it back because of holding, and from a technical standpoint, he doesn't have to hold. And so, I wasn't excited at all about that first quarter.
And the start of the second half, Coach, 21-0. We started fast in the third quarter, Coach. We got a touchdown. When you look at that, we're able to get a touchdown there as Jacorian Sewell from 55 yards out to put us up 28-0. But then an unsportsmanlike on the tail end of that, Coach. It was penalized on the kickoff, but I know something you don't want to see.
Yeah, he knew better than that. We had that discussion. We talked about it. So we got it nipped in the bud.
So it was 28-0 at that point. And then we added another touchdown. Tyron Warren from 38 yards.
It was just good to see, Tyron, get an opportunity to run past somebody and we get a chance to get it to him, in there. I think that's going to be the deal. Once we kind of run it and get guys, stacking the box on us, we got to be able to win one-on-ones on the perimeter. So it was good to see him come down with one.
So I made it 35-0, and we referenced this, Coach. 9:59 left in the third quarter. Kensey with 3 penalties, maybe 3 in a row, 2 in a row. In that particular sequence, I know that was tough.
Yeah, don't have to hold. Just panicked. On the holding, which I didn't see the hold. Quarterback was actually scrambling and the kid was blocking him, so he trying to get off the block, so he gave him a holding, which I was surprised. I thought maybe those guys would have held the flags and ready to go home and eat some barbecue, but he called it. But the second one, it actually was. It was a pass interference, on him. And so you just got to play sound. Don't let the anxiety levels get high when guys start to get on top of him. And he just got to play through his technique.
We added another touchdown, Coach, with 6:29 left in the third quarter to go up 42-0. Tylen Citizen got in the act.
Yeah, it was good. He's that third, fourth running back for us right now, so it was good to see him get in the end zone.
So it was 42-0 at that point. 4:09 left in the third quarter. We got the football again. Lorenzo Garcia had a 26-yard field goal attempt, Coach, that he missed. So offense getting some things done defensively, but then a field goal missed right there.
Yeah, and I was, I was on him pretty tough. On the left hash. That we just got to make them. We get the offense down. We expecting to get some type of points. There, and we work it. And so, I think that might have been, his 5th attempt, in his career, Mr. Charles, and he's been here 3 or 4 years. So we'll continue to work with him, seeing what hash he like or whatever the operation we can do. But we definitely got to get points, when we get that close to the end zone.
Achilles Ringo got the start on that drive, by the way. So you look at Tolbert and you look at Washington. Talk about Achilles Ringo.
Yeah, he's the future for us. He really got a live arm. Not as fast as Dre, but can process it. Through. For a lot of yards in high school, was in the junior college sector, but man, he give us fits on scout team. I think the other week might have been this week, he 35-21 against the Ones, with that offense, man. So we're excited about him, and I wanted to really see him in that scout team get some reps, and those guys made the best of it.
So as we wound down the third quarter, our athletics director Dwayne Robinson comes in our booth with his phone in his hand and shows me the text. The fourth quarter is going to be 6 minutes long. Talk about how that decision came about.
Yep, the same way, they asked me at Mississippi State, coaches had to agree on it. I knew the situation they was in, and I felt like it was enough time for the guys to play. That was my biggest thing, was just making sure, I had opportunity that everybody, on the sideline can get opportunity to play, but also from a sportsmanship standpoint, not put that other team in harm's way. And so that was ultimately the decision behind it. And Coach was amazing about it, and of course, I signed off on it.
So 6 minutes, just talk about that. Now you go from a 15-minute quarter, the goal to complete the process with 6 minutes on the clock in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, them guys got to hurry up and get it. And I just told them, it's a blessing, because you could be in a situation where you could actually not play or see have your parents to see you play. There's some guys that actually go a whole career without actually playing. And so, just be thankful, be grateful, but also use this as a springboard going forward to be able to get more reps. And I had a chance to evaluate it and look at guys to see going forward. Man, to see old Carl McDonald run down on kickoff, as a true freshman at the speed he played at, regardless of who he was playing at, with, that depth chart changed. You'll see Carl out there a whole lot more. It was good to see him. You see Trey. Trey Minor, do some things. So it was some guys out there, man, that took advantage of those opportunities that they had, and we're gonna lean on those guys going forward now that we got some bangs and bruises, to some guys.
Yeah, Minor had an 8-yard run. We got the ball with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Of course, a 6-minute quarter, and Minor had a couple of carries. Talk about Cameron Stewart. We've seen him off and on the back end of games. Cameron Stewart for a 5-yard game. Talk about Cameron Stewart and his addition to what's already a loaded backfield.
Yeah, Cam is just steady at it. Sometime he up there with us on the top field, and then he down at the bottom getting reps. He knows the system. He's been here for a while, and so it's just good to see him go out there and get a chance to, you see him make some guys miss, but he do us like that all the time. And so just honored and pleased to have opportunity to coach him and see him get better, being here, being a part of this program.
Well, the final score, 42-0, Coach. So offense, defense, special teams. Coach, defensively, 6 sacks. So I want to start with the defensive side of the ball because we've been talking about this, trying to get to the quarterback. So we had 6 sacks. Dylan Crowell with the sack, and I want to just give the credit to the players who got the sack. Dylan Crowell with a sack. P.B. Hinton with a sack. Cedric Roberts with a sack. Eric Thomas Jr. with a sack. We talked about Dylan Crowell. And also Lamarian Hatcher with a sack, and then you had a half a sack by Lorenzo Garcia and Kenneth Andrews. So from the defensive side, Coach, just talk about getting to the quarterback and a half a dozen sacks against Lincoln.
Well, for me, it was more so the ones that we missed. It's easy to just highlight the ones that they got. However, we left way too much meat on the bone, and the coaches did a really good job, I can say, of kind of getting that fixed later on, because early you see the quarterback kind of get out of some things and you reverse field, and we didn't contain them well, but it was the blocking scheme that they was giving us. So Coach Fosserman and Coach Cove did a really good job with Rowe to be able to cage that quarterback in. And so that's what I was more excited about, of seeing them make the adjustments after the ones that we missed and be able to cage that guy in. So those guys are really starting to play, really good football up front. They're starting to get a feel for each other. And, we just got to get the quarterback to the ground. If we do that, that'll take a lot of pressure off them linebackers in the secondary.
Well, 13 points given up against Prairie View. Then pitching a shutout here. Do you feel like your defense collectively is starting to turn the corner a little bit, or do you feel like they already have done that?
I think Coach Rowe is starting to, feel, what type of group he has, what type of personnel, from a coordinator standpoint, you know who you are and what you want to do. But a lot of times when the players, they skill set or they just don't fit that, then you got to kind of adapt to them. And I think he's starting to adapt to the personnel that he got, moving some pieces around. And his staff is doing an amazing job, just putting those pieces in the right position to be able to be successful. So I think that's collectively, what's starting to happen over there.
Well, we talked about those names that got a sack, and you talked about the stuff that was left out there. But just talk about some of the guys that, as you mentioned, that don't see a lot of action. Guys with a half a sack, for example, and Brendan Gibson, who had a half a sack. Talk about him.
He's been amazing. He's been here, walked on, a couple of years ago, been with us the whole time. I think he had fresh off a shoulder surgery. So, he's one of those guys that's been in the program for a while. That's done an amazing job, And then them inside guys, man, they really starting to get together, Kenny Andrews and Lamar Hatchett, all those guys, man, they doing an amazing job, just creating a new line of scrimmage, because those guys don't get a whole lot of credit. They get double teamed and, always got hands on them, and it's more so the ends get all the credit. But just shout out to the inside guys are really just anchoring that thing down inside to make sure that those edge guys can kind of get to the quarterback.
Yeah, you talked about Andrews, who had a half a sack. When I'm at practice, I hear Coach Roberson call Mamadou's name. Just talk a little about what he brings to that defense.
Yeah, he's one of those young guys that, once, Steve and Quiz leave, the torch will be passed to him. And so he just got to, unfortunately, I think he got banged up on that first kickoff or second kickoff. But, he's with that Dylan Crowell crew that's kind of the next ones up. And so, he's getting better, every single day. And so just excited about him being a part of it and continue to grind.
T.B. Hinton led the way with 6 tackles, followed by Cedric Roberts with 4, Eric Thomas Jr. with 4. Talk about the job that Haney has done, Coach, with the 3 tackles. Seems like we're calling his name more and more.
Yep, he knew he missed a couple of them on the edge. Banged his shoulder up a little bit, had to come out, but he's been with us for 3 years. That whole crew, him, ET, all those guys kind of came in together, and so he just got to continue to work. But it was an interception out there we thought he should have had on the hitch, but he came back and made up for it.
From an offensive side perspective, Coach, everybody got a chance to, as far as the running game is concerned. You talked about the offensive line and quarterback play. Just talk about the receivers. I know you were trying to get everyone at least some touches. Were you satisfied with that operation?
Yeah, Jarvis, putting him on the right side, leaving him there. He made some catches for us. We still, featuring Jacoby. He's going to be the guy that's going to kind of jet sweep and quick game and all that. You see Amarion get the touchdown, and then you see Tyron kind of go back to his old ways of stretching the field vertically. So it was good to just see those guys go fast and quarterback be able to spit the ball out. But, if he don't fumble the ball and, with no turnovers, his grade is a whole lot higher.
When you talk about punting the football, and Demetri and Duval's in the top 5 in the conference in punting, just a couple of punts. Just talk about the job the special teams did in terms of the operation. Of course, you had the missed field goal, but all in all, I think Jacoby Matthews, Coach, really can be something special. The speed, the explosion. We're talking about it during the game Saturday. What he brings in that punt and kickoff return game.
Yeah, we're starting to get better. We're starting to get better. In all those phases. You look at the way Meach turned the field over. Even last week, against Prairie View, he was on the 1, and that ball go almost to the 48, 49-yard line. With the hang that we need. So those guys are doing an amazing job. Fosterman is starting to, he don't get into the summer, and start to put all this stuff in and knowing personnel. So, when he finally get it, he's starting to know different skill sets and know where guys need to be. And so I think it's starting to, play out, coming down the stretch the way we needed to with the right personnel and the right people doing the right things. And so those guys are practicing and working their tails off, and so it's a major component of what we do. I think we're just starting to see the fruits of the labor starting to come to light.
We talk about offense and defense once fall camp starts. Well, the defense is always going to be ahead of the offense because you got a new quarterback and all that. How long does it take for special teams to kind of gel? You just referenced the fact that Coach Fosselman was a late addition, so he had to know what he had or what he didn't have. How long does it typically take special teams to kind of round into the formation or the identity of the special teams coach?
You're right around conference play, because you're constantly, changing people, changing bodies. You're using your different formations and things of that sort. So right around conference play is when, you kind of get a bead on, what the guys can do, the different looks that you're getting, especially if you're not a part of the conference. And so Fosterman, being a late addition, just starting to really see who the guys are for himself. It's different when we kind of tell him, what they can do, but now he get a chance to see it. He see those core values inside those guys, and so he's starting to make it a necessary transition from a schematic standpoint to make sure he can get those guys out there and do what they want. And it's funny that you said that because you're the only person that asked about special team doing, do the SWAC Media Day. So this says a lot about your informative of the game in totality when everybody put offense and defense to the forefront.
Because we have, speaking of homecoming, we had a PAT blocked against Grambling on homecoming that cost us a game here. And so I'm always cognizant of special teams, and every PAT is important. You see it in the NFL. My Rams missed the PAT. I don't even want to get into that, but it's just I think that's probably why I'm a little hard on special teams, because my team, my pro team, has cost itself 2 games with some special team screw-ups.
Yeah,
it's important.
Yeah, it's very important. And you work it. You work it. And so you just constantly just have to reinforce these 18, 19, 20-year-old brains that 21 seconds or that 30 seconds in the game, it means everything. But a lot of them, will look at the 4 quarters as being the everything. And we had a situation, Prairie View. We know Cam, a really good guard, but just went to sleep on that one play. And that one play, indirectly cost us a game. And so we constantly preaching and teaching, to learn from your mistakes and just putting the emphasis on those 27 to 35 seconds. They mean something.
How much improved is special teams this year compared to last year?
I think it's light years ahead. Minus we missed Keon in the kicking game part. From a field goal standpoint, but from punting and the way we the averages, and I look at the numbers even when the guys going down. We're way better. right now. And so we just got to continue to work on it, continue to enhance it, continue to, different looks, and continue to get the bodies like Carl McDonough and Trey and all those guys, some of the newer guys. Kevin May is starting to come in his, come in his own. So you'll see him featured a little more, in some of those backup roles and even getting an opportunity to go out there. So it's some guys that, early didn't get them opportunities, but now, some guys banged up that we know we got high-quality athletes that can come in and spell them.
Well, we'll take a timeout right here. Some questions have come in, and we'll get to that coming up, and we'll look ahead to Florida A&M, our first ever trip to Tallahassee. I'm looking forward to that, and I was told get there 5 hours early, and it's kind of crazy over there on homecoming. They've got a big street with a festival that's behind the stadium. I saw it during basketball season, and so I was warned, get there early. And the team will be staying about an hour and change out, another one of those trips. So we'll talk all about that. We'll take a break here. We'll return after this on the Brave Sports Network.
We believe nursing isn't just a major, it's a calling. We're not just teaching skills. We're cultivating trailblazers who transform healthcare. Every breakthrough, every compassionate touch starts with curiosity, courage, and community. At the Alcorn State University School of Nursing, passion fuels innovation. Your journey starts here. Always innovating, always transforming, always Alcorn.
Founded in 1920, the Southwestern Athletic Conference has produced some of the most iconic names in sports. Alabama A&M, Alabama State, Alcorn State, Bethune-Cookman, Florida A&M, Grambling State, Jackson State, Mississippi Valley State, Prairie View A&M, Southern, Texas Southern, and the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff have united to embark on a new era of greatness. The Southwestern Athletic Conference, building champions for life.
A chain of events that began 2 hours ago is about to change Kyle's whole world. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
This message is sponsored by the Mississippi Office of Highway Safety, Department of Public Safety, Mississippi Association of Broadcasters, and this.
All right, and we welcome you back to the Cedric Thomas program. Glad you could join us. We'll talk about Florida A&M coming up. Coach, you and I talked this past Thursday, and the speech that you had with your team was pretty passionate in terms of, look, we've lost some games and some players are no longer with us with this program. And you really talked about it's not when times are good, who's going to be with you when times are down. And so you really poured into your team on that in terms of staying the course midway through the season. It's some tough times for a lot of teams in this league. Teams that were expected to finish high have struggled. And Florida A&M's one of those teams. Southern, of course, we were picked up there. But team, staying the course. So one of the questions that was asked was how many players have basically left, or do you want to talk about players who have left at this point as we're at the midway point of the season?
No, I can't speak on kids that's no longer a part of it. I think that's, just dimming the light on the ones that's out here. And so I'm willing to discuss, and yell to the highest of the mountains about the kids that's staying here, that's being a part of it, that's going out and work every day. That's all that matters. But if anybody, want to know anything about a student athlete that's no longer here, then you can reach out to me personally. Because a lot of times, the message don't always be the truth. And one thing I won't do is do anything from a negative standpoint to hurt or harm these student athletes. And so the ones that's here is the one we're going to continue to work, continue to, pour into. And for the ones that's not, we just hope they, can find out, find themselves and find a great situation that's best for them.
Yeah, and I know this halfway through the season, it's tough for teams that are struggling, and you just continue to just pour into them and continue to keep the spirits up. I know what happened Saturday, and after the game we won, we got a victory, but a lot of tough football ahead.
Yeah, that's life, Mr. Charles. When this football, I don't know how many NFL guys that's out there, but mom gonna leave, dad gonna leave, sister gonna leave, brother gonna leave. And so I just think the foundational piece of staying the course when things are not going well, it's not just tied into wins and losses. And so, I understand, I signed up for it, and, I get it rectified. However, it's some life lessons. I know the reason why I'm in the seat in which I am is because of those lessons, because I didn't quit, because I didn't take my ball and go home when things weren't going good. And so that's the message, inside of, what we doing every Monday, and every Tuesday when we out there practicing. So we'll continue to spread that and just getting these guys to understand there's more to life than just the W's and L's that don't define who you are.
Well, Coach, there was another text that came in. This is a comment that came in today. This person has family in Vicksburg and thanking you for organizing the Spirit Day at Chick-fil-A last month. And I was going to ask you about that. It kind of got by me. So the comment was well attended and good for the community. My nephew met the football players that got us excited about Alcorn football, and they'll be attending the remaining home games. I'm going to ask you about that event, Coach, at Chick-fil-A in Vicksburg. A lot of Alcorn folks were there, people on campus. Just talk about that.
Yeah, Ms. May, she approached me, with it, and I'm all for it. My brain doesn't process a lot. That's not one of my specialties of just the organization and structure of that part. And it's limitation and capability for me, and I ain't ashamed of it. But when it's brought to me, anytime I can get these young brothers out in the community, whether it's reading at the local elementaries or reading at the high schools, getting their face seen, I'm all for it. And so when I had that opportunity, when she brought it to me, it was a no-brainer. Coach Fred kind of did the leg work, from a physical standpoint of being there, and we got the guys there in their jerseys, and to see the pictures, man, I just thought it was awesome. So anytime, community leaders would like, for the football team or just, coaches or anything that can to be a part of, making a difference, or just, coming out, just let me know, and we'll be glad to service whomever.
Despite what hasn't happened on the field, those are really good stories to tell.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand. But man, we're a couple plays away. That's the excitement part of getting up, because we can still, be a service to everybody and do all these other things, Mr. Charles, and go to overtime 13-13, or make that extra point against, Pine Bluff and have opportunity to kick the field goal, when we on the 20. And so that's what kind of rattles our cage, knowing that, on the field we're a couple plays away from an organization and structure standpoint. The guys are working hard, and we can do that and still go out to communities and read and show our face. But that's just one of those things that, put the holistic approach inside of being a head coach and getting these kids to understand that, it's just not about on the field.
Yeah, I mean, just staying the course, the energy. Just talk about that aspect of it. I mean, despite players are still, you talked about players that aren't with the program anymore, but the ones that are there, just talk about their energy, their body language, their spirit.
Yeah, they bought in. They bought in. They understand the mission and vision. We continue to enhance, that from a knowledge-based standpoint, and those guys are working. And so we excited about them. And like I tell them, we're going to work till there ain't no more work. We're just going to work to work. And so those guys got another opportunity. What a blessed opportunity. I've never been down, talked to Willie yesterday about homecoming at, FAM. And so he got chills running up my spine inside just hearing some of the stories that I never been. So to take this program on the road in a hostile environment, man, we excited about it and can't wait to hit the grass in the morning to start preparing.
Well, I want to correct myself, because I've been looking at this, and I've been talking with folks who've been around Alcorn State University and Alcorn football a lot longer than me. Have we ever played in Tallahassee? And our good friend Mike Jones just sent me a text. We played FAMU in 1982 for their homecoming. So 1982 playing in Tallahassee. So that was the last time we were there, 1982. So it's 40 plus years ago. So it's been a while since we've been there. So let's transition into Florida A&M, Coach. Going to Tallahassee for their homecoming. Before you get into the game, another one of those trips like Mississippi State where you're staying an hour and 15 minutes away in Valdosta, Georgia. I booked a hotel room there in January because I was told that you better get rooms early. I was there for basketball. I booked it. And, especially when Florida State's in town, as well as Florida A&M playing on the same day, and one of them has homecoming, it's crazy. And despite the record, I think it'll be a lot of folks there. So just the logistics of that, just talk about that trip going down there, staying an hour and change away. Will you get a walkthrough in somewhere in Valdosta? What will that look like?
I have no idea right now. This is our first time going. Coach Fred ain't never been, nobody on the staff ever been. So we on the phone trying to get in contact with local high school coaches to be able to see. Also just getting the organization part of, what time we're leaving to be able to get there, being on the bus. And so it's some logistics that, as soon as I get done with you, I'm going to head over and get the calendar together and get the itinerary together to make sure that we got all I's dotted and T's crossed, because that's definitely, it factors in. You play the game off of Thursday and Friday night rest, so we got to make sure that we're where we need to be safe and sound with the ample amount of rest, especially with it being a 2 o'clock game.
And I guess, I don't know if this makes a difference or not, but we're on Eastern time. We're going to lose an hour of time going over there. So it's a 4 o'clock Eastern time kickoff, 3 o'clock Central time. Does that play a factor into it as you try to make that adjustment?
Yeah, it does. And my first time really experienced was when we, played in the Celebration Bowl. So how the bodies, just kind of was a little different, with it being actually, 10 o'clock, even though it's 11, and vice versa. So, it's going to make a difference. So we got to make sure that we got them, mentally in tune, about that transition, but just making sure, like I said, when I get over, with Coach Fred, to just make sure that we got all the I's dotted and T's crossed, just from a travel standpoint, to make sure we're giving ourselves all the advantages.
We've had long trips to Huntsville. You got a trip to Houston coming up. Do those longer trips, does it keep you up a little bit later at night with the logistical piece because it's not like you're going up the road to Jackson, or it's not like you're going 2 hours to Grambling, or it's not like you're going 2 hours to Itabena or Baton Rouge. Those longer trips like Huntsville, like Tallahassee, like Houston, does it give you a little extra pause for cause?
Well, not the Houston and A&M, because we've been going there for a while.
Right.
We've traveled that road, so we know, we kind of in routine. We're going to hit the Popeyes, we're going to hit this, rest stop, so that's kind of easy. But this one is just uncharted territories, I talked to Cedric, at Valley to kind of see, what did they do when they came for homecoming. So I'm going to hit him up, and kind of go over some things and kind of see. He'll send me his information, and I kind of go through that, and then I get with my guys to kind of just see what's the best fit, from a organization and structure standpoint to get these guys, there with the right amount of rest and prepare to play a football game on Saturday.
Well, just for information purposes, the band will not be going. The band will not be going to Tallahassee. Someone asked me, and I talked with the band directors early on, and they will not be going to Tallahassee. So just keep that in mind as you're making your way down there. All right, let's talk about Florida A&M coach. Second-year head coach James Colsey was on Willie Simmons' staff, got the gig. Some tough losses. I mean, they haven't left the state of Florida. They played in Miami, lost to Howard 10-9. Florida Atlantic, they lost that at home. Albany State, they lost to Alabama State at home. They lost to North Carolina Central at home. Now, they will go to Southern next week, first time that they'll leave out of the state of Florida. So when you look at this Florida A&M team, Coach, they haven't lost a homecoming game since 2017. What do you see in Coach Colsey's ball club?
Anytime you talk about Florida, you talk about speed. Those guys are fast. They relentless to the football. Just some plays here and there. Had some timely drops. By some couple skilled guys that if they catch those balls, that record could easily, be on the plus side of the win column. Guys that really play hard, and so kicking game. Got some dangerous guys back there to return pumps and kicks. So we got our hands full, and I know Coach, with homecoming, being as such, those guys will be chomping at the bits, and so we don't look at this record by any imagination and state, that we're going into a team that's not that won't be prepared and ready to play.
The quarterback, Petty, got the start, but R.J. Johnson has played. Petty was 11 of 26 for 154 against North Carolina Central. What do you see in his game?
Got a live arm. You see him. He can make all the throws. He can, be on the opposite hash and throw the big-time comeback. Not as, he's athletic as R.J., so he's definitely one, I'm expecting to get in, and play a whole lot more. We just got to do what, North Carolina Central did, kind of bottle him up, give some different looks. And so hopefully he can throw us one.
Running the football, they have 43 yards rushing in 28 attempts against Central. But what's the deceiving part about all of that? When you look at their running game with Franklin and Summers and Haley and Quinn and Jefferson and Taylor, that's their backfield.
Yeah, they got down. They got down early, and so it's kind of trashed the run game. Just because you're playing from behind and you're trying to catch up. So, when they got that game, when it's in reach, that's a part of what they do. They're gonna bang it in there. They're gonna run the RPOs. Not a whole bunch of drop back, but they want to try to get the extra defender in the box so they can throw behind them.
And their top receiver, Jalen Rogers, the 5'9", 160-pound junior from Miami, a Tulane transfer. I'm sure they're going to try to get the ball to him. What do you see there?
Yeah, we got to know where he at, at all time. Kind of put you in the mind of the guy that, Pine Bluff had. They'll put him in the slot, put him out wide to the Z or the X. And so we got to make sure we know where he is and, put a couple guys on him to make sure, he can't run past us.
Defensively, Coach, they're number 9 in the league in total defense, number 5 defensively in terms of run defense. But, again, you just look at the numbers and the stats. You're looking at the tape. What does the tape tell you?
You know that those guys will fit the run up. They got some guys that can hump it off the edge and put pressure on the quarterback. And got a secondary that's long and physical that will, play a lot of man free. So we definitely going to have to do a good job of getting off blocks. We got to do a good job of trying to run the game, have a solid run game with a, 8-man box.
So as you look at this game, Coach, it's conference games the rest of the way. I mean, just coming off our first victory, got that out of the way. What are you pleased about as you get down the stretch here with these games? We've got a bunch of home games coming up against 3 of our 4 top rivals, Valley, as well as Grambling and Southern at home. We go to Tallahassee, we go to Houston. But as you look at this now, the meet, all of it, SWAC games the rest of the way, what concerns you going forward? What pleases you going forward, starting with the game at Tallahassee?
Just making sure that the kicking game miscues kind of get cleaned up. We're still searching for that perfection inside of those 3 phases. We got 1 or 2 that's kind of, right on the cuffs of being really, really good. And then we just got to get all 3 phases, ginning. Offensively, we just got to score points, at the end of the day. 3 touchdowns in this league. We're not built like that on defense. We can't hold, these explosive offenses to a whole lot less than that. And so we got to score some points. And so offensively, we got to put some points up. And defensively, we got to be able to get the stops and make sure we can get the ball back to the offense.
How important would it be to get this one, get a win, and come back home? Long trip to Tallahassee. You talk about the logistics, staying an hour and change away and all that. You get that win, and then you come home. How important would it to get in the win column and get in the SWAC win column?
I think it'll be huge just for the psyche of the guys. Being able to go on the road, hostile environment as we continue to develop, that championship culture and that mindset of these guys, because it's going to be a hostile environment versus a really good traditional football team. So I think this is going to be really huge for us as we go forward and lay this foundation of these guys that's going to continue to be with us and continue to work. So I'm excited about it. I know they will be, but this will be, one of them games that we'll really be able to tell, what type of ball club we have.
4 o'clock kickoff Eastern time, 3 o'clock Central time from Bragg Stadium. It's their homecoming. Should be a lot of fun. Alcorn and Florida A&M. Coach Cedric Thomas, appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Appreciate it, Mr. Charles.
Again, our thoughts and prayers are with the folks that have lost, the individuals that lost their life, and of course there were some injuries there. Thoughts and prayers with everyone. Be safe out there. All right, that'll do it for the Cedric Thomas Show. For our producers, Cedric Tillman, Jamario Brooks, Coach Cedric Thomas, I'm Charles Edmond. Glad you can join us. We'll talk to you next Monday night as we get ready for Mississippi Valley. So long.